Hogstye.
Guys, what the hell happened? I
happen?
know it's the Hog Site. Steve, Dave, Alex. Hey, hi. What the hell, Steve? What the hell?
I mean, look, it was a weird draft.
It was.
I graded it a C minus, and that's a grade I upgraded from originally before I hit publish on my column. It was lower than that originally. Yeah, I strongly disagreed with the draft strategy and philosophy.
Right.
I thought they overdrafted many, if not most, of those players compared to what they probably could have gotten them. And yes, it takes two to tango to trade down and all that. But yeah, the point is, draft value wise, they didn't really fill. They overdrafted some positions. Didn't even look at others. I thought it was a very strange draft from a Washington standpoint. Well, I've got thoughts on the draft as a whole too, but I guess let's start with Washington, huh?
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, I'm gonna ask Dave a question too. Dave, what the hell happened?
Ask him the same question.
Well, I tell you what, man, when Christian Gonzalez was sitting there on the board, and I'm sitting there with my brother and friends of ours watching the draft. They're Eagle fans, of course, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, it has to be the Christian Gonzalez, or you move back and get a tight end or something.
Right.
And then Emmanuel Forbes was just announced, and I'm just like, I just pause. I'm like, what's this? What's going on? Why do we pass on Gonzalez? And then of course all his measurables come out being like 5'9", 160 some pounds, soaking wet.
No, he's 6'1". He's not 5'9". He's
6'1". He's a beanpole.
I thought he was shorter than that.
Oh no. That makes a big difference, though.
Yeah.
No, that is true. That is true. But when but yeah, you're right. 6 foot is what I actually saw. My bad, not 5'9". I'm thinking of the second round pick. Martin,
okay.
he was 5'9", but yeah, 6 foot. But either way, when they brought up his measurables, of course, a friend of ours turns around and says, "Oh, look at that! You guys drafted Flat Stanley, or Stanley Flats is what it's called." I'm just like, you gotta
Flat
be kidding
Stanley.
me.
It's right.
Yes, I'm just like, oh man. Of course, I get that picture on the group text. We're all on with other Eagle fans. They're having a good time with it. I'm like,
sure. Well,
So,
they have a receiver with the exact same body type. So
I actually have a hypothesis about this. So, Ron Rivera seems to be a coach who, in some cases, falls in love with athleticism.
Oh yeah.
Right? And he didn't really with Jahan Dotson, but he didn't have a choice, because other receivers kind of got drafted, and he sort of got, in a sense, he kind of got lucky with Dotson, but Jamin Davis, inexperienced, out of his drafted him out of position, very athletic, and this Forbes guy, who I didn't know much about, to be perfectly honest.
Sure.
He's got flaws, but he's athletic. It kind of fits the mold. Like Dave, I was truly shocked. I was truly shocked that if you're going to go corner, you wouldn't have grabbed Christian Gonzalez. The winningest coach in NFL history grabbed Gonzalez, one pick. Yes. Yeah. Ran, did not stop, did not pass go, did not collect $200.
In fact, I think that pick was made like in under a minute or something like that. It was crazy how fast he did that.
In the first round, when they force you to milk it, like the league desperately wants you to take 9 minutes and 58 seconds to make a call. No, the Pats were like, nope, this guy, we're done.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm gonna play with my dog.
And to be honest, I don't think Ron Rivera, that I say that for Danny as an insult. Right. I don't think Ron was going to draft a tackle even if one had been available. I think he's too dumb to do that. I mean, he's just not very smart when it comes to roster building. That's the only thing I can conclude.
Well, I will say, and this is what I wrote my article on, which gave me which when I woke up the following day, I read an article.
It hasn't been published yet, so we're talking about something will be published Friday.
Right, and it was something I had shared with you guys, and it makes a lot of sense, especially when you saw the second round pick of Martin. It seems like he's trying to recreate that 2015 Panther defense where they led the league in turnovers, of 39. 24 of them were interceptions. So he's trying to create a big play environment on the defensive side of the ball, which it worked for Carolina at 15-1. But you got to understand one thing. And I respect that he's on that hill. He's going to die on that hill. And I respect that part. If that's what he's going for, I actually respect that. It kind of made me made me feel a little better about the draft. Not that I liked it any better, but it made me feel a little more comfortable because he has a direction and a vision apparently. But the only problem is that Carolina defense, you had a league MVP quarterback in Cam Newton. You don't have that here. You had one of the better running teams in that league. You don't have that here. You had one
tight end.
You had a tight end. You don't have that here. Nope. You had one of the better offensive lines then. You don't have that here.
Yeah. You had a cohesive offensive strategy.
Yes.
Which we might have.
Don't worry. Sam Howell's here to save.
There you go. Yes.
Okay, so let's get some little bit of details about Forbes because it's what we do. So 6'1", 166 pounds, and that's not I did not misspeak.
Right.
The man is built like a basketball player. True junior, so he spent 3 years in college, 35 games, Mississippi State, 150 tackles. He had 14 interceptions. Ran the 40-yard dash 4.35 seconds, jumped 37.5 inches. Now, I got to say, on the interceptions, so I watched all of his interceptions, and about half of them are places where he was kind of in the right place at the right time, got lucky on a tip ball.
Sure.
Some of them he jumped the route, and great, good on him. And he did obviously catch them all. But I don't know if that level of luck is going to continue on in the NFL. I don't know if this guy is going to be like a Darrell Green level ball hawk just because he got a bunch of interceptions in college based on what I saw.
Well, so here's what I would say to counter that. On the one, obviously we're all watching the highlights of the interceptions, right? The one thing I saw him do very well was he seems to have a good ability to track the ball. Like you see him get his head around. He's got his eye on the ball really well. And it reminds me of watching most wide receivers who are good, like deep ball threat receivers, how they would track a ball and adjust their body to, make a catch. He's playing like that. Now, as a corner, it's always going to be different and more difficult because you don't know where it's going. So it's not like he'll probably ever get like a 10 interception season. That's, rarefied air. But I do like that part of his game. I can, see what the coaches liked about it. The weight worries me. But you know what? You can always get fatter. I know that from firsthand experience. I got to college at 162. So.
Yeah, but listen, man. I mean, he's an elite athlete.
Right.
And this is a guy you can put weight on, you just eat donuts, but that's not what he does. To bulk up and put 20 more pounds on while still maintaining that speed and that agility and athleticism is another
muscle. I get it.
It's another story entirely. It's not as easy as you might think. And the other thing about Forbes is he appears to me to be more of a man coverage guy than a zone guy, just in the way he kind of responds and the way he plays. If that's the case, what does Washington not do a ton of?
Really, because most people are saying he's a zone first guy.
That's not what I thought.
Okay.
Well, through college, he's actually played both schemes. From when you read what Daniel Jeremiah was saying, and when you listen to some of the other guys on the show and everything, he's actually played in both schemes. He's a better man than he is zone, but he does play zone. He does have experience in zone.
I mean, anybody who played even in high school knows has played some zone coverage. But the point is, this is another like Josh Norman kind of thing here. You consistently you draft or Jamin Davis. You draft an outside speed outside linebacker to play a middle linebacker. Great. And Josh Norman has a certain skill set. You don't use it right. Landon Collins. You try to throw him in as like a deep safety, and he's really kind of a hybrid linebacker. And now we're bringing this Forbes guy in, expecting him who's a man better in man coverage than zone coverage, and you're going to throw him on a zone coverage team. And so this is why I was saying it's not that I disliked Forbes in particular, but I didn't think Christian Gonzalez should have been the pick. Period. The end. If you're going to go corner. But more than that, I'm just not sure that he's what they think he is. I think this is a case of Ron fallen in love with a 40 time, and a bunch of college interceptions.
Well, I know
definitely
there were
could
some
be.
reports. Yeah, I know there were some reports, if you believe them or not, that Forbes has been moving up on a lot of people's boards. In fact, there were even some that had him as a top 4 corner in this draft. But even if that's the case, you probably could have, moved back. But yeah, I know you need a trade partner for that. I get that, but he was stuck on the guy. He wanted the guy. There was a video of him even talking about Forbes. If he's there, we got to take him before the draft and everything. I mean, that's fine. He stuck to his guns and that, but it's like, but then how do you weigh the fact that, well, your draft position and the players available, how do you weigh Forbes over that? I don't care how much you like the guy. You have better talent. You have guys there that were worth that spot, but you pass on him because, like you're saying, Steve, he fell in love with the guy for whatever reason. That's poor. That's poor. That's a poor way to enter the draft.
And personally, I think I might have considered trading up and grabbing that tackle.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, there were some rumors post-draft, and I believe it's Mike Jones who kind of put this one out there, that they were looking to trade up and even go after Anthony Richardson at one point, which would
have just taken the cake.
That would have, made this into a disaster of a draft, in my opinion. So, I'm happy that didn't happen.
Because if I'm wrong, am I not wrong in thinking that Jones went only just a couple spots over where Washington picked in round 1?
It was like 2 spots. I think
that's what I thought.
Yeah, they should have. If they had been able to get up there and get a starting left tackle.
But I just don't. Ron Rivera doesn't seem to care about it. You don't find elite left tackles in free agency. You never.
No, you don't. No. Very rare. Well, Brown was out this year. They could have maybe made a move. He's not elite, but he would have been an upgrade.
Trenton Williams. Yeah. Or Joe Jacoby.
No.
Or Chris Samuels. Those people are brought in and drafted.
Don't happen. No.
Right.
Now I will say at 16, there was not a tackle that was probably worth that pick.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
they had to trade up.
Right.
To jump Pittsburgh.
Right. I would not have wanted them to take who was the guy who went like 30 or something.
No, he's not. No. And that guy's also probably not a left tackle anyway.
No, he's a right tackle, which honestly they're okay on the right side at this point.
You're talking about Anton Harrison.
Anton Harrison,
yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, thank you.
So they would have to trade up, and so if you just look around though, who got drafted right after him? Christian Gonzalez, we talked about him. What about 18? Anybody think of this? The Lions. Any of the Lions picked? Middle linebacker Jack Campbell.
Oh, that's where they took Campbell, right?
Gee, that might be a need. Do you think?
Well, and I like Jack Campbell a lot.
I know you talked.
And he's a good coverage linebacker too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you will not convince me that corner was a bigger need than middle linebacker. But Ron Rivera does not. He just doesn't value linebackers. I don't know what to say about it.
They are obsessed with playing nickel and dime defense all the time now. That's what they are obsessed with.
But what kills me is that his most successful defense had who to anchor it. Luke Kuechly, which once again they don't have.
Listen, Dave's column, which you'll read Fridays, really made some good quality points in it. It really did, and it really showed that the key to the whole Carolina thing really was Luke Kuechly.
Yes.
And that's the key that is missing more than anything else here. And this is something that Rivera and Jack Del Rio just totally ignore. Jack Campbell would have been I would have been happy with Jack Campbell at 16.
I was a little surprised he went that early, but yeah.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez. So most people had Forbes either the bottom of first round or second round, and they overdrafted him. I don't know what to tell you. They overdrafted him. It's the end.
They did.
And they could have done something where they probably could have just walked their way back in the draft.
They could have traded back and still gotten him if they were obsessed with Emmanuel Forbes. They could have traded back.
Yeah, if they had found a good trade to make.
Tango. I mean, of course.
But see, that's where if you just get a team that's only like 3 or 4 picks away, you convince them to move up. They don't have to give up as much. You find the next team is a couple spots away.
Yeah, because it's kind of free money, I mean, it's,
Oh, darn, I picked up 2 fourth-rounders kind of thing. Sure.
Yeah, I know, and you got the guy you want all along. But I thought this was a bad pick. When it first happened, I don't know about you guys, but I was in grading it on the fly, I thought F. I think this is an F pick. But I revised myself subsequent to that and called it a C-, just because I mean he does have some talent.
He's a good player. He is a good player. But
yeah,
I mean, I just don't think he's. I don't think he's that player that Ron Rivera thinks he's going to be, though.
That's right. So my grade, I ended up grading him a C-, and that was being generous. I thought. Or a C, rather.
So here's my thing: we don't know how any of these guys will turn out. Of course,
I'm just talking about instant reactions.
Right.
It's just fun to do. That's all.
When I look at these guys and I make a grade, which I mean we're already kind of talking about it, I would probably put it at a D. It's not because of the players. We could have 3 Pro Bowlers in here for all I know. It's about draft strategy versus team need.
Right.
Because you didn't fill what I would say were 3 of your biggest needs at all in this draft.
Yeah, you didn't even make an effort to do it.
Yeah, you didn't even try. But yeah, Forbes, I can see there might be some upside. It's a big swing, low floor, high ceiling kind of pick. Like this guy, well, one, because of his size, it's not like he'll ever be a slot corner. Like you are going to have to keep him on the outside at all times.
Yes,
probably on the quarterback's backside too, to be safe. Just, he's going to be the guy you match up against the fastest guy on the other team, and you're going to hope it works out.
He's so thin that my big concern with him is bigger NFL receivers are going to have their way with him.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You're going to put him on the smaller, faster guys all the time. That's going to be what you're going to have to do.
But did they really need that? I mean, did Washington really need to spend a first-round draft pick on a corner?
Well, they had to go back-to-back picks and corners.
I'm not even
that's
getting
the wild
that.
thing.
Let's get to that. But
I get
stick to just round one.
Right.
Grant, I know Kendall Fuller's expensive and all of that, but wasn't there if these bunch of players were around the same area of the draft, wouldn't the need have been much greater in linebacker?
Absolutely.
Or a lot, or offensive line. Yes, again, Kendall Fuller, expensive. But he can play.
O-line, tight end, all would have been better picks.
They really needed a slot corner, and they could have gotten that in, later in the draft.
Well, they did.
Right.
Yes,
that's the point.
Let's talk about that next, shall we?
Yeah. So let's move on to pick number 47, Jartavius Martin, who's kind of a safety, kind of a slot corner guy. He's going to be Ron and his weird Holy Grail like quest for a Buffalo nickel. That's what this is. And it's more Monty Python than the Holy Grail so far.
Kind of.
But that's where we're at. I watched some tape of him. It's very interesting because you talk about Forbes and he's this very skinny, he's going to play the ball kind of guy. Martin definitely is a more physical corner. I like that. I think bigger. You mentioned Dave, he's shorter.
I have him listed at 5'11". That's what the combine had him listed at.
Okay. Either way,
5'11", 194. So he's got
not
30
a big
pounds.
Big guy, but
no, he's got
still.
30 pounds on Mr. Stringbean.
30, yeah. And he's a good tackler. I'll give him that much too. From the highlights and stuff that I watched of him afterwards. So if the plan is, and I assume this is the 2-year plan for Ron Rivera, you're gonna let Fuller walk. These guys are gonna be one outside guy, slot guy, and you're hoping Benjamin St-Juste can be the other outside guy long term.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And then you're not spending a lot of money on elite corners right away, and you can pay some of these other guys, your curls, your maybe a defensive end or two. So I think I understand why they did this as a draft strategy, but it's a lot to sacrifice other parts of the team for that. It is.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I thought this was a terrible pick, not because Martin is bad. I guess he's Quan. I was about to say Jarte. I guess he goes by Quan apparently.
Oh, does he go by?
Yeah,
he's listed as Jartavius, but
the NFL Network said he goes by Quan. Yeah, so
okay.
I don't think Quan Martin is a terrible player necessarily, but I think another guy overdrafted. I don't think he was really a mid or third round pick at all. The need is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just flat out stupid. What's amazing about this guy? He has a 44-inch vertical leap.
Yeah.
That is Kobe Bryant level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't mean rest in peace. I just mean that is NBA shooting guard,
Right.
elite NBA shooting guard,
Mhm.
11-1 in standing broad jump. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is off the charts. Not so fast. 4.46 seconds in the 40, but leaping ability.
Let's also be clear, not slow either.
No, I
Right.
mean, but that's not. I mean, by NFL corner standards, that's not
No,
burning the track up.
No,
You
no,
know, obviously,
it's
it
middle
beat
of the
all
pack
of
these
us
days.
clearly, and that's not even the point. So what do you do with this guy? You know, is he a man guy that you can put up against a guy like DK Metcalf, this classic 50-50 guy, because he can jump off, to the moon. So maybe that might be his role. Particularly, he's physical, a little bigger,
Yeah.
and so maybe maybe this is the slot guy right here.
I mean, I think that's clearly the plan here.
Yeah, I guess.
Because he did a lot of slot corner play and safety play, so he's basically another version, a smaller Landon Collins at that point. But yeah, I'm with you on it. Doesn't make sense to take two defensive backs in a row like this. It just you can't.
If I had still been a diehard fan, I would have been mad.
Yeah. No, I was very annoyed. I will say that.
I rated this pick a D-, and again, it was original an F. I upgraded it a tiny bit mainly because his vertical leap was so high. What I just said made me a bit intrigued. So it's a D- for me, this pick.
Well, see, the reason why I wouldn't even the reason why I don't give it an F is not because of the player, but because when that pick was made, between scouting report and anybody who was talking to, I mean, this is a third round guy.
Would you like to know? Dave, can you guide me and interrupt you? But I got to say it before I forget. Let's take a stab. Somebody tell me the player that was drafted one pick after Quan Martin. Don't look.
Not looking. All right.
Dave's about to look down.
I have no clue.
I already know who
I
it
can't
was.
remember it all.
Cody Mosh.
Because it was a guy. It was a guy that I liked the most.
Cody Mosh was drafted by Tampa Bay and pick 17. That is, kids, is what Washington should have done in round 2, without a doubt. Yes. Yeah. But go ahead, Dave. I apologize for interrupting you.
No big deal. That's fine. I agree. That was rather disappointing when I saw that face come up for that next pick. I'm like, here we go.
I mean, the thing that irks me, weren't there a ton of good starting caliber tight ends still at that point too?
Yeah, but Alex, Cody Mosh was sitting there available.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying there were several.
He would have been your guard for 10 years.
Cody Mosh was available.
Fine. Yes. You go for the guard. I get that. That's fine. It's just frustrating.
And yes, there were some tight ends to answer your question. Yes, like Schoonmaker was there. Schoonmaker, rather, was there. Brenton Strange went in the bottom half of round 1. Schoonmaker would have been the one, if you're going to do it.
What? And that's what makes it even more frustrating with Martin, because he was, by all counts, I haven't seen him rated anywhere earlier than the third round. I mean, now that's a guy you could have waited until your third round pick, and if you wanted to so bad, moved up in the third round, and you could have taken him.
Sure.
But no, you don't do that. Instead of taking Cody Mosh or one of the tight ends or whatever, no, let's take this guy now. I mean, come on, man.
That we don't need.
Look, right. I hear you. At the same time, we got to remember the ratings that we see from media types obviously are very different. Lots of guys went way earlier this draft than they'd been rated.
Which is true, yeah. I think you tweeted something like that. I think you tweeted that out during the draft too, and
a couple times probably.
Even if the guy's the greatest corner ever, you drafted 2 corners in a row on a team that needed 1 at most.
Right. No, I agree with that.
That's crazy.
I would have had no problem with the Martin pick if maybe they grabbed a lineman in the first round.
I had a problem with the Martin pick because Cody Mosh was available and they didn't draft him.
Yeah, sure. I get that.
Did I say that once? Cody Mosh.
I mean, in your ideal world, we would have traded up, grabbed a tackle, and then grabbed Cody Mosh.
That's what I recommended in my pre-draft column.
Right.
That's what they needed. At some point, you got to pay attention to the offense. If you're going to put this 5th round pick who's played 1 game in quarterback.
Yeah.
You think you'd maybe want to have a strong offensive line instead of bringing in a bunch of mediocre, Walmart guys, Walmart greeters,
And see,
at
and that's the
offensive line.
problem too. That's the problem you mentioned right there, because they brought in Wiley. It was like, oh well, we'll kick Cosme into right guard. We brought in Gates, who's had health issues to begin with anyway. He'll be our center, maybe left guard, and then they like this kid Chris Paul, which, for all intent and purpose, he's a good player, I guess, from what you're hearing. So they figure, well, we brought in Wiley, we shuffled the rest of the offensive line. We got a top 10 unit now.
No
and
worries.
That's probably what his thinking is. Don't worry
it's
about it.
It's
We're
not
fine.
near top 10.
And Sam Howell.
Yeah.
We got you covered. We got you protected.
Well, Sam Howell
10.
can run. That's the
true.
thing.
He's gonna have to run.
Thankfully,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Work out those legs, Sam.
It's a good thing you can run, Sam.
Yeah. Well, okay. So they did finally address the line a little bit at pick 97 with Ricky Stromberg, center out of Arkansas, which I always want to say Arkansas every time I see it written down, because you've either spelled it wrong or something. I don't know what's wrong with that state. That's my dyslexia, Dave. I'm not super dyslexic, but just the word Arkansas.
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad Ron finally thought that maybe I'd look at the offensive line, but
Yeah.
I truly, yet again, do not understand drafting a center in a round in which he is expected to start when you just spent $16 million on a starting center. When is this guy going to get on the field?
I don't know.
Seriously, and I'm assuming Chase Uriah be gone. I mean, I would assume he's, they'll probably cut him, but they got Gates and they've got a number of quality backups.
Well, here's the thing I'll say.
But a third round pick is a starter. You want a third round pick to start, and they just signed a
by
starter.
the end of the year at least. Yeah, you want him to be playing.
Well, the one thing with Stromberg though, he is actually a guard center. He's played quite a bit at guard for the Razorbacks.
But he's really a center. I mean, yeah, he can play a little bit, but I mean, did you draft him to be a guard or did you draft him to be a center? I sometimes think another thing Ron kind of is at fault a little bit. He's hyper obsessed with athleticism and he's hyper obsessed with versatility.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm all for versatility. Don't get me wrong, but
He made me sick of it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I would actually rather have somebody who is an expert in one particular position. That's good too,
Well, at certain positions, yes. Center is, the center touches the ball every play. Right. Like, technically, the center is the only player who you can guarantee will touch a ball every play. Because you can
center and left tackle are two guys that should be exclusive to that position. The guys
ideally, yes.
You don't put them anyplace else.
Right.
Now, here's what I'll say about Stromberg overall.
Go ahead.
Very good run blocker. Like if you're to say like where you would give him grades, he's gonna be an A run blocker, which is very nice. He needs to work on his pass blocking, which is probably why he won't start for most of this season. When is
he gonna play?
Yeah.
Who's he gonna replace? Is he gonna replace?
He played 20 linemen last year. He'll play some.
He's good.
Nick Gates is gonna get benched.
Yeah.
He's gonna play for the next head coach in 2024.
Maybe
that's more likely. Yes. He will be the starting center in 2024 would be my guess.
I just don't know. So, you recognize you have an offensive line need. So you bring two expensive center and a high draft pick, and you ignore the obvious needs. That's like the one position on the line you probably didn't need.
No, you needed to shore up the left side more than anything in this draft. You needed
and they just didn't make an effort at it. So I thought Gates or Stromberg's C+, points for at least you drafted a lineman, which, as Dave says, he does have some experience at guard. But still, it's still kind of a dumb pick.
But if you watch his highlights, you watch anything on him,
center.
He's a good center. He's a true center.
It's my third round pick. That was once they didn't overdraft him.
No. I think they picked him in a good spot. But I understand what you're saying. You've now spent a lot of capital on trying to find a center.
So let's review, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? So this team spent 3 picks on 2 positions in which they really only needed one starter. And they really didn't even need a starter. They needed a slot corner more than anything. But they could use the starter.
They starter at this point.
Yeah, granted. But so they have the 3 rounds that players expected to start rounds 1 through 2 and 3.
Right.
And they've drafted 2 guys that aren't going to start.
Possibly, yeah.
Absent disaster, you know.
Well, you say absence disaster. What if Stromberg comes to camp and you just flat are like, wow, he's way better than anything else?
Well, the problem, of course, is you gave Nick Gates $8 million in guarantees at signing,
Sure.
and
So
his
you
dead
have to
cap,
kick him
his
to
dead
guard.
cap is $8 million.
Yeah, you're gonna have to kick him to guard. Then is what
Nick
it
Gates
is.
a guard?
He's played some guard too.
But is that the most efficient use of resources?
Sure it is.
I mean, we spent $15 million on a guard at one point. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend 15 millions on a guard, let's find a guard, an actual guard, not a center masquerading as a guard.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
It's just negligence, man. It's just roster negligence. This whole draft is roster negligence.
But I am with you. I think this means we're cutting, our highest paid offensive lineman now. So
I think Chase Rea isn't long for this world.
There were rumors that he might have to retire after the last injury, so it's not shocking. And you feel bad for the guy because obviously he just kept on getting beaten up. So, it will free up some money in that regard. But I feel bad for him on a human level, obviously, that his career is probably over. All right.
Of course. That's not even the point. Yeah,
right.
Course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Next pick, round 4. Pick number 118. Is it Braden Daniels?
Braden
Daniels.
All right. Braden Daniels, offensive lineman out of Utah. Another one of those, he can play anywhere, guys, because I checked. He played left tackle, left guard, and right guard in college. So literally played both sides of the line, has played inside and outside. So kind of just a utility lineman. I assume they're bringing him here to hopefully be that 6th man or 7th man on the line for the next 4 years, right? Like that's the goal.
This pick I loved. I thought this was their best pick of the draft, honestly.
Well, this is a good pick that actually fit the round.
Exactly. Fit the round. It fits a need. They needed a lineman like this, kind of a swing lineman.
They need a utility lineman. I agree.
Daniels is a little small to be a tackle, but they don't need him to be a starter. They need to just be his kind of utility. I can sort of do whatever. And this is, he was a 4-year starter at Utah. He played left guard, right tackle, left tackle. So he can kind of do everything. This was their best pick. So I gave it an A. I gave this pick an A.
In my, at least let me do some research thing, I watched some local Utah, Salt Lake City news about him, and they are hands down talking how he's basically been their best lineman at Utah for the last 4 years.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, he got drafted, out of Utah.
And I guess that's true. Not a lot of guys get drafted out of Utah, do they?
I mean, a few, but I mean,
Yeah. Cooley went to Utah State, right? Not Utah.
Yeah, well, it didn't. Alex
Smith went to Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think Cooley went to Utah as well too. I thought it was Utah Cooley went to.
Oh, you're gonna make me look it up.
I thought it was Utah State. But
we ought to know this.
Yeah. I should know it because he was one of my all-time favorite players. But I think it's Utah State.
The only guy who actually dated and married a cheerleader and got away with it.
Yeah. I think you dated multiple cheerleaders.
Utah, we're not going to. Yeah, it was. Dating may have been a bit too descriptive a term. He went to Utah State.
Boom.
See, I told you, Alex.
Spent time with a cheerleader or two. Yes.
Yes. I mean, look, if you like the company of a certain type of cheerleader, you like the company of a cheerleader. I'm not going to judge that for that.
Yeah, course, why not? The girl loses her job, but that's neither here nor there.
They get paid $50 a game. Let's not forget.
Well, it probably actually, I've said before, I think if you add up all the time and energy and the makeup
they lose
and
money. We had an at-length discussion about that at one point.
We did, yeah.
They get screwed over. It's awful.
They do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I agree with you guys. I like the pick overall. I think he'll have a role on the team. It's not a starting role. It's probably career backup, but high-end career backup is you need to go in with 7-8 good linemen every year, right? 7 or 8 guys you trust, because people get hurt. So even if you don't love the Stromberg pick, Steve, would you trust him to play center if you had to?
I
because
didn't
I
love
trust
the
him probably more
Stromberg
than some
pick
of the guys we had
because
last year.
I didn't like the Stromberg pick because round 3 you're supposed to find starters.
I get
And
that.
I mean, that's why I didn't like the Stromberg. As a player, yeah, he looks like a strong center candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thing in the end. They went through so many centers and so many different lineups of the O line last year and the year before and the year before. Like they just keep losing people right and left. So I'm not super upset about having good depth, especially at a center position, honestly. All right, well, let's go for it. Round 5, KJ Henry, the defensive end. Interesting guy to look at. I feel like he's a very fast, light, pure like speed rusher type of defensive end. And given that they will only have one guy under contract, I think for next year.
Okay, so
as of right now, yeah,
we can go over this. They've got 185 linemen signed to the roster right now.
Right.
But in terms of the players who are going to be on the roster past the 2023 season in total,
for sure, yeah,
for sure. Jonathan Allen, Phil Mathis,
right,
Daron Payne, John Ridgeway, and that's it.
All
defensive
defensive tackles too.
Yes, the rest of these guys are rookies,
right.
Et cetera. And so, yeah, I mean, you got Chase Young, Montez Sweat, both free agency into the year. We didn't mention, we mentioned this on It's Just Business this week. Shaka Toney suspended for the year because of gambling, so he's out.
Probably done. Yeah,
probably done. And so they did need to draft somebody. What I disagree with, why did you have to trade up for this guy? Somebody explain why you had to waste a 5th and a 6th round pick on defensive end.
Why'd you
actually trade up?
What bothers me the most is that they traded up. When they traded up, I thought it was going to be someone like Noah Sewell or
that's exactly what I thought.
Or Henry Tutu right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he drafted him. I'm like, you have these two linebackers out there that fit either profile you're looking for and what you needed.
Right.
And you go with Henry, who's more of a, he just fills a plug. It's a rotational.
He's literally just a pass rusher. I mean, he's not gonna be playing linebacker or anything else.
Right. Where Henry Tutu, he's a coverage guy, he's a coverage linebacker.
Yeah, I'm not a big Tutu guy, but I would have understood it.
I heard you were a Tutu guy, Alex.
That's only with Matt
Ioannidis.
Yes. No. There was a time in my days when I wanted to be an actor that I might have done some things, but that's a different story.
Oh my God.
That's a rated R podcast right there.
Yeah, that is. That's another podcast.
I was in 8th grade. Nothing rated R happened.
I would point out that Clayton Tune got drafted 2 picks later.
Mm-hmm.
Who he went to the Cardinals. Clayton Tune would have been the ideal developmental quarterback. Instead, you trade up for a defensive end. Another dumb thing to do.
I don't mind them grabbing an end. I just want to trade it up for them.
Yeah, I know. There's plenty of ends out there.
Right.
Like Dave said, Noah Sewell, he went 10 picks later, but Noah Sewell would have been a great, linebacker pickup. No, thank you. Let's trade up to get the defensive end. That you really don't need him this year at all.
No.
It's really, you're just hedging the bets for the future. Okay, but do you need to trade up to hedge a bet against a roster bet? No,
you don't. All right. Next pick, Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back out of Kentucky. Interesting. They really were like pumping this pick up after the draft, saying, "Oh, we had a round 3 grade on him." I don't know why, because nothing about him screams round 3 running back to me. But
not really. No,
that's apparently Eric Bieniemy likes this guy.
Look at where they've been drafting guys so far in this whole draft. Of course, they're going to have a higher grade than everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
That's right.
Yeah. Here's what I saw, and don't take this the wrong way. When I watched videos of him running, it reminds me a lot of Alfred Morris, and not in a good way necessarily, but in this guy hits his first gear quickly, but doesn't have a second gear.
Right.
That's what I saw right away from Christian Rodriguez.
Oh, I think that is what what he's. That's why he was available in round 6. And by the way, the idea of them saying we had a much higher grade, it's just gaslighting to the extreme.
Of course.
We had him rated much higher. Well, if nobody else did,
and credit to Steve for using gaslighting properly.
Did you expect me to do otherwise?
I don't know. You don't use a lot of pop culture terms.
No, I don't. I don't think that's a pop culture term necessarily, but regardless.
It is.
No, it's not. But let's move on. I'm all for a running back. I think you could generally kind of ought to draft a running back every. It's one of those things.
Yeah, I have no problem grabbing.
And what if for those who don't understand this, Alex basically had it right. He's a one speed, one trick pony, downhill, interior power runner. Mm-hmm. That is what he is. They need that. That's not a bad thing, but that is what he is. That's why he was available in round 6.
Right.
And it's the right round to take him too.
Good pick, solid pick, a good need, right. decent player for round 6. No matter what you guys out there say, Washington's running back room needs a lot of help. So here's somebody. This was the other pick I gave an A to.
Yeah, I have no problem drafting running backs in general. I wouldn't expect a whole lot. Like, this guy can be your third stringer. He can pick up some short yards, I'm sure, because that's what he's built for. He's just not going to be a home run threat. Don't expect him to.
But that's all. When you get around 6, it's a crapshoot. The statistical analysis I did, 8% of round 6 players go on to be starters.
Right.
Like serious starters. So I mean, it's a shot in the dark. Decent shot in the dark. I think you're right. He's not a pass catcher. No. He's a one-trick pony.
Yep. He'll find a gap, he'll get through it, and he'll get you 4 yards. That's
or
what
he'll run, or he'll run over somebody and get 4
exactly.
yards.
Right.
All right, last pick, Andre Jones Jr. I was looking. Some places has him listed as a defensive end. I thought he was a linebacker when they drafted him.
He's not. He's an edge rusher.
Okay, so he is a defensive end.
What he is a 3-4 linebacker. Or a 4-3 edge rusher. He's not a linebacker in this offense.
Got it. All right. So out of Louisiana, Raging Cajun. I didn't understand this pick at all, other than I know you want to have depth at defensive end, I guess. But
I think it's, what it is? I think Ron's got some weird tick that he just can't draft one player in a position. He's got to draft 2 in position.
There is a little OCD with his draft in that regard, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. He's got OCD. He's like hovering and shaking over a draft board, knows what he has to do, but just can't let it go. Can't draft just one. Has got to do 2. It's like, this is what the people who wash their hands 20 times do.
There's a little bit of that. You're definitely right.
I don't I don't care too much about a middle of the 7th round pick. No. If the dude works out, great. I watched it. I love the phone calls. I did watch all the phone calls. Mm-hmm. This guy was in tears. He was, he was very grateful to be drafted.
Sure, right.
Did they need another edge rusher? No, of course not. But I mean, it's the 7th round pick. So what?
Who was the one whose dad was wearing the throwback Skins jersey?
That was KJ Henry.
That was KJ. All right.
Yes.
So he gets a +1 on my book just because his dad still has the
he's gonna
2002 throwback.
He's going to be a fan favorite, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And he's giving shit to his uncle, I think it was, who was wearing a Cowboys jersey.
I did see that. Somebody, whoever that was, had a Cowboys jersey on. I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened?
What? Did we lose you, Dave? Oh, something else happened to Dave.
We thought Dave had dropped out there for a minute, but Dave is okay. Dave just is sick and tired of talking to us, is what it is. He's pouting in the corner.
I think he got electrocuted by his headphones because he's taking his headphones out. Let's do a little play-by-play about what's going on with Dave at the moment.
See, if you just have over-the-ear headphones, Dave, you wouldn't have to worry about this.
Yeah. That's why I don't go with wireless.
We're the experts here. Catch up.
Not on football, but on headphones.
Yes, exactly.
Because Steve's a big audiophile with his guitar playing.
I've spent entirely too much money on these headphones.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, I just went with some classic Sonys. There he is.
I'm wearing Marshall Monitor 2 headphones, which run like more than $300. Marshall gave me a big discount on these headphones.
Sony's MDR 7506, which are like the industry standard for headphones.
I just messaged him and said, "Hey, I've got multiple Marshall guitar amps. in the house.
Send me a headphones.
What can you do on headphones? And we can give you a 20% discount. Here.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to this. Enough about headphones, even though I love talking about headphones.
We were vamping for Dave to come back. Dave, you didn't get it. What? Kate, Andre Jones, thoughts?
Andre Jones, not much thoughts. He's just more of a guy that's just probably a special team guy. May not even make the cut. Just like you guys said, it's almost like an OCD. He just had to get another edge rusher, I guess. I don't know much about him. I just looked at him as more just more of a depth guy, special teams guy, and
We're having a minor bit of technical problems here, kids. So stay tuned here. So
Dave, I think your mic swapped to your onboard mic there. Well, it's one of those shows.
So let's talk. So overall, okay. So we went through all the picks.
Right.
So my overall thoughts, and I wrote this in the column. This is not a good draft for Washington. I think, in addition, for the reasons we talked about, but in summary, a lot of these players were drafted out of position, I thought, or drafted much earlier than they had to. They were obsessed with these players. They could have traded back, and to get these. They ignored obvious needs.
Mm-hmm.
They ignored linebacker, didn't bother to try to get a guard or a real guard or a tackle. They didn't get a developmental quarterback. They signed somebody. They did sign a quarterback. We're going to get to that here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll go through their undrafted.
They signed like this dude over here, as the quarterback, and that's not going to work. And so it was I thought this was Ron's worst draft of his Washington career. I gave it a C-. I originally had it as a D-, as a D, and I upgraded it one spot.
So I have to separate the players from the draft strategy. I give the draft strategy an F, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Draft strategy F, yes.
Yeah. We don't know how these players – it could work out that 3 of these guys end up being starters in the long run. And if that's what happens, great. 3 starters out of any draft would be fantastic. But just the strategy itself made no sense. I think the more we see of Forbes, the more we'll end up liking him, especially if they can use him the right way. So I'm going to give the players maybe like a C+ overall, but with that weird draft strategy that makes no sense to me in terms of team needs, I'm going D overall.
Fair enough. Let's play Russian roulette and go to Dave.
Oh, for me, players-wise, I actually like the players. I like Forbes. I like Martin. I don't have problems with the players itself. They were taken early. Mm-hmm. You could have done repositioning the draft. But like I said in the beginning, I think Ron was trying to recreate a vision that brought him to the Super Bowl, but he's missing way too many key components even for that. Just on defense alone, Luke Kuechly alone. You don't even have that. You could put Holcomb and Jamin Davis together, and you get a poor man version of Luke Kuechly anyways. Come on.
But you don't have Holcomb anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's the offensive line is not going to be that much more improved. They did nothing in the draft to really help it. You're putting Sam Howell in a position this year like you did the Wentz last year. The only difference is at least Howell is younger. He can move better. And it's just roster neglect. To me, this draft just simply put the final nail in the coffin of his coaching career here in Washington. I don't see him making it out of this year. And if Josh Harris winds up being the guy taking over this team, which looks like all signs point to that direction, he's going to bring in his own guy. And Ron Rivera has built no resume right now to convince Josh Harris or any other new owner to keep him on board going forward. It's just the overall draft itself for strategy. I'm right at a D-, and just the actual execution of the draft. The execution of the draft, man, I wish I could go lower than an F. And that's not an indictment on the players because there are a handful of good players in this draft. Yeah. Just not where you got them at. It was just you had other areas. You had better players available you could have taken, you should have done that. Especially when those good players were players of need at the same time. It's just whatever.
I think we're all kind of in the same boat generally about that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they passed on Cody Moss for a second corner, I will never forgive.
No.
Yeah. Look, I think when it comes to players, it would have shocked me if 3-4 of these guys are good contributors to this team long term. No. So you can't get too upset about the players themselves. You know, like none of these guys are like, why is he even on the team?
There'll be a couple who make it. You know, there always are. I mean, but it's. I think we all. Okay, so.
Do you want to talk about undrafted?
Yeah, no, I do want to talk about undrafted. Right. So we, I have a list.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just run through them. Wide receiver Kazmir Allen, wide receiver Zion Bowens, offensive lineman Mason Brooks, quarterback Tim DeMorat. Safety Xavier Henderson, defensive end Joshua Pryor, wide receiver Jalen Sample, safety Kendall Smith, cornerback DJ Sturgis, wide receiver Mitchell Tinsley, wide receiver Bryson Tremaine, and corner Nick Brightside. So yes, they did sign 5 wide receivers. Let's talk about.
Did you say Josh Pryor? I saw him from Bowie State.
Yes, I did say that.
Okay. I was trying to count the wide receivers so much I lost track.
The quarterback. Let's start with him.
Yeah.
Tim DeMorat. Fordham, 6'4", 220.
Right.
Out of Fordham. It doesn't have great stats, but this is what you're getting in an undrafted free agent quarterback. But at least he's got some size. He's not a little dude, so he's got that going for him. I don't know why they needed to sign all these wide receivers. They've got a billion wide receivers at this point.
Right. Because they are allergic to tight ends, so they want to. I wonder, are they just trying to build a spread offense, like a college style 5 wide receivers at all times?
We're just going to go without legitimate tight ends.
Yeah.
Well, I will say though, the kid from UCLA is the one guy that was a really good signing because he's fast, he's quick, and he is a punt returner, kick returner. That's what he is, and that's what we need. So we at least got something that we needed.
The guy Dave was talking about is Kazmir Allen.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was one of the better signings. Most of these.
Yeah. I think he was one of their first, wasn't he?
Yeah, yes. I think so.
Almost right away, yeah.
Yeah. So there's always sort of priority free agents, and he was one of them,
Right. Right. And one thing to note about him, apparently he did not have a good 40 time at his pro day. It was like a 4.5, and he's really more like a 4.3, 4.4 guy, supposedly.
So he's 5'9", 175.
Right.
And so when you have a wide receiver of that stature, you do expect in the 4.3s. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
Right.
And you also expect him to basically just be your kick returner at that size.
Yeah.
Yet another thing Juan has botched is kick returner.
Yeah. Because they had one.
They did have a pretty good one.
Yeah, they had a good one 2 years ago, and they let him walk for $2 million.
Yep.
Or something.
I didn't think it was that much, was it?
I don't think it was a lot of money.
It was unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not vet minimum. It was like just over vet minimum is all I remember.
Don't worry, Jax Milne's back there. He's got it under control.
Yeah. He has everything but the ball under control.
So there's not much to say about these free agents. I mean,
someone might surprise us. You never know. We've had it happen before.
But I think we said the two that are interesting is Allen and then the quarterback.
Yeah, those are going to be the two to watch.
I thought they actually did bring in a linebacker. I thought that people were surprised didn't go drafted. I can't remember that name was. But
well, no, I mean the only one if Joshua Pryor is somehow he's the defensive end, if he can somehow play linebacker. Now there's another list though of players that are going to get tryouts at the rookie camp. I did not go. Right. These are the players that they have signed.
Right.
And so we'll see. We'll go over there's no point in reading the tryout list. Sometimes they sign none. But if they sign 1 or 2, we'll cover that.
I don't think Joshua Pryor is going to be playing.
I don't either.
Linebacker because he's 280 pounds.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. World's fattest linebacker.
Hey. Just have him stand at middle linebacker, ram the pile, like just. Go do what
kind of like Fletcher, London Fletcher in his later years to stand there.
Yeah.
Or Levon Kirkland, he could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Levon Kirkland.
That's a name.
Talk about a game passing a player by. Wow.
All right, so we have a few minutes. There was one funny story I told you guys about it before the show that we got.
We got to have to do it. We always try to do an NFL story mainly because of
this is not even NFL because this is from the National Arena League, technically. And if anyone other than me knows what that is, I'd be impressed. Because after the Arena Football League folded, like 20 little minor versions of it, beer money leagues.
I did not know that.
Yes. So there was a team. It was in the Arena Football League called the Albany Empire. After the Arena Football League folded, it's still around somehow. It was purchased this season by Antonio Brown. Yes, that Antonio Brown. Yes, mental health issues galore, throwing gummy penises at police because he didn't want to pay child support. Antonio Brown.
He got sued by multiple women for crazy, insane behavior.
Right.
That Antonio Brown.
He purposefully got himself kicked off the Oakland Raiders and then did a videotape of him getting kicked off by the Oakland Raiders and then jumping into his pool.
That Antonio Brown.
That Antonio Brown. Said he wanted to bang Tom Brady's wife or something on Twitter at one point. Yeah. That Antonio Brown.
He is an insane person.
He is a crazy man who was a very good wide receiver at one point and made a lot of money.
And he bought this weird off-market Arena League team
in Albany. And I like Albany. My mom's from Albany.
I don't have a problem with Albany. Yeah. I mean, Albany's fine.
It's very cold. That's the only issue with Albany.
Well, at least he wouldn't have a problem signing players' checks, right?
No, that's exactly what
really?
He has a problem with, Dave. Because apparently Antonio Brown decided he didn't want to pay his coach or his players.
Give a good segue.
Alex, did he have a rational basis or legal contractual?
I don't think he has a rational basis for anything, Steve. I think he just didn't want to do it.
So this man bought this team that, what is it called again?
The Albany Empire. Empire State.
And then just up and decides that he's not going to pay his coach or his players. Not only that, he locks them out of the hotel by taking their keys.
Yes, he sent a letter to the hotel saying, "Do not let these people back in the hotel." And look, if you're playing for these beer leagues, as I like to call them, because you're making like $20K a year doing it, like you're playing for, you have to have a hotel because you're just going to go wherever you can to make the money and try and live.
But more to the point,
yeah,
presumably Mr. Brown is in it to make money at some level,
right?
And to make money, you have to have a team that plays the game. And by not pay, so what happened was the follow-on to this is that the coach and the players quit because he refused to pay him. And I don't blame them.
Why would you stay there?
Of course not. And so now he has an asset that was a legitimate minor asset.
Right.
That made $5 here and there to an asset that has no worth. So whatever he paid, he could have just set it on fire and had a pretty blaze, and it would have been accomplished the same thing.
And I don't know exactly what this league teams costs. I know from other leagues, it's anywhere between $1 to $2 million is what you pay for them. That's what people pay for these franchises now, which is also absurd. But he just burned another $1 to $2 million because he's Antonio Brown.
I would like to know 10 years from now what is left in this man's bank account.
I would like to know what's in there now.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's just great. I mean, I feel bad for those players. I mean, it's not the NFL, but they signed up to do a job, and they have this moronic, crazy owner who just flat out refuses to live up to his contractual obligations. It's wrong. Hopefully people get smart enough to not do business with Antonio Brown.
I mean, you would think that at some level, the people who own this league would have said, maybe this is a bad idea. But
they need to sue him is what they need to do.
Oh, absolutely. They should. But they won't because they probably don't have money.
Well, maybe this is one of those things where everyone talk about Dan Snyder being the worst owner of all sports, and here's Antonio Brown going, "Here, hold my beer."
If only it was a bigger team, it would be more fun.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, because I don't think the NFL is stupid enough to let him in the building.
Oh, Lord, no.
I don't think even like, I don't know, the Indoor Rugby League of America or whatever something would let them in, you know? Like,
There is a professional rugby league in America
yes,
now.
there
We
is.
have
I know.
one of these teams in Houston.
Yeah, we have one too, and so does Philly.
I've kept meaning to go to a game and check it out, but it's not that important.
Do you know the rules of rugby out of curiosity?
No, zero. No.
Okay. It's very
But
similar to football.
it's just people beating up on each other, and that's always fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very similar to football in that
Yeah.
respect. But no helmets. Yeah, I've been meaning to do that too, honestly, to the team here in DC, just because why not? Check it out.
And I had no idea Philly even had one.
I'm pretty sure you guys have one too, because they have like 18 teams.
You don't need to pay tickets to a rugby game to see people getting beat up in Philly. Just walk down the street.
Just start in Kensington, walk around
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go up to Fishtown, maybe, you know.
There's a lot of informal rugby going on in Philly.
We use this trash can as a ball.
They call it for the city of hate for a reason. Or maybe that's just me that says that when I can't
That
remember.
is
One of the two.
that is not just you, actually. Oh, Antonio
man.
Brown, what a mess you are.
Did I tell this last time? I work with a particular attorney from Philly regularly. Every time I talk to him, I say, "Yeah, the city burned down yet?" That's my opening line at every phone call, and I'm just waiting for him to just get super pissed off at me and tell me to stop. I'm gonna see how far we can take it before it gets old.
No, it'll
We
take a
can't
while.
get pissed because we're on the verge of that anyway.
He might agree with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, it keeps him in business anyway.
Well, he doesn't
So-
do that kind of work. He's doing
Oh, no.
commercial business stuff. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any other Commanders news going on in the world.
There's no sale news to speak of.
No sale news. We're getting back into rumor season because you saw the Ravens and Cardinals both have linebackers that they didn't give a 5th-year option, and everyone's wondering if they'll trade them now.
You could
Please
be
do.
said for that for a guy named Chase Young too. You could say that.
Yeah. I would happily trade for Simmons or who's the guy with the Ravens? Queen? That's right.
Yeah.
I would take either of them in a heartbeat. Whatever.
Well, now that the Ravens gave Lamar Jackson a ginormous contract, so we're
Right.
gonna have to
Well,
find
they're
money
looking at
somewhere.
trading him actually too right now apparently.
They are.
But all
No
I
one's
know
mentioning
is
us. Everyone's always like Philly. He'll go to
Yeah,
the
right.
Eagles because that's what
Well-
the Eagles are doing.
Well, speaking of Philly, just a little request out to Josh Harris if he officially buys a team when you come down here into DC, don't hesitate to take a guy by the name of Alec Hallaby with you. He is Howie Roseman's right-hand guy for like the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Take him, bring him down, and give him whatever title he wants, and let him do what he's got to do for this team. That's all I ask. Just do that for me, please. I'll drive. In fact, you know what? I probably live right near him. I'll drive him down for you. You know,
I'm sure he lives right in your neighborhood.
probably. You know, I'll get the U-Haul. I'll get whatever he needs. I'll drive it down there. I'll pack up his house with bubble wrap, everything.
Call him an Uber, maybe.
That's it, maybe. So
Yeah. I would not mind getting some front office guys from Philly, even from New York. You know, like let's do some poaching.
If I
Yes.
were a team, I would poach the Ravens. They're the ones that consistently win.
Well, you'd have to look. Who was like a guy with Ozzie Newsome or?
Yeah, I don't know, but whoever
Yeah.
Ozzie Newsome's guy is who I would
Well,
try to get.
Joe Douglas came from there, came up to Philly, and then he went from there up to New York because Philly brought him up there as an assistant general manager, and then but Howie's there. You're not gonna kick out Howie for him, and then New York brought him up to New York.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard Harris is pretty good at putting together these front offices, though. Like that might be one of his
Yes.
strengths,
Yep.
supposedly. So.
But before we sign off here, because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
So we may do one more show on the draft. We may, I don't know, who knows. But and we were working on a guest that fell through.
Mhm.
And here we go. I opened the wrong document. But so where we're gonna go from here for the rest of the offseason is we always start our position group breakdowns. So we were actually supposed to start this week, but since we had the draft, I just let it go. So we're gonna do safeties next
Mhm.
week. And that's where we're going to start. So safeties, running backs, receivers, edge rushers. We're going to go into detail, as we do every year, about Washington's. Now that the draft is over, the free agents are signed, all of that, we're going to go and have a look forward as to what we can expect for each position group, and that'll take us through training camp. So that's the plan for next couple months.
Okay.
Yep. That's the plan, which should be, people should be used to that with our show by now. We kind of have a routine for the off season.
Yes.
Steve came up with a very good schedule like 6 years ago, and we've kind of stuck to it.
Yeah, and this was not my best effort because I did this super fast, and I had a couple listed twice in the draft previews, and it screwed everything up. But but we got through it, and the position group breakdown is set straight, so we're good.
Yep. All right, guys, that should take care of the show for this week. We will talk to you all next week. Later.